Welcome, everybody. And my name is Emily Van Lan, and I am managing a new project with NAAEE. It's called Discover the Forest. You may recognize me from the Natural Start Alliance team, which is also a part of NAAEE. My wonderful colleagues, Christy and Sydney, who will be taking over the webinar series going forward, are actually in Portland, Oregon right now, planning for our 2024 Nature-Based Early Learning Conference. So I am just stepping in for them with the wonderful support of my NAAEE colleague, Carrie. So thank you for being here. We're really excited about today's webinar. So as folks are trickling in, I wanted to share this really beautiful photo. Christy shared this majestic photo with me this morning. She took it from the conference venue in Portland, showing Mount Hood in all her morning glory. And I thought everyone would appreciate seeing it because it's just how nice. And as folks trickle in, I would like to invite all of you to share, to introduce yourself and share a recent moment of nature that you experienced, big or small, in the chat. I suppose I'm borrowing this moment from Christy. I didn't personally experience it, but I loved it all the same. So we'll just take a moment. I see some folks are still trickling in and sharing. Introducing yourselves. I see lots of familiar names. Hi, Pilar, I see you in there. Another Spanish immersion program. Ooh, a frosty sunrise. I am coming to you from Chicago, and yes, it is quite cold here, but trying to find the beauty in it. Oh, Pilar shared I think a familiar moment from someone who spends so much time outdoors. Sometimes nature isn't always beautiful. Well, welcome everyone. Please feel free to continue sharing your wonderful or not so wonderful moments in nature. It's such a nice way to kick off our webinar today. So once again, I would like to welcome you to our Natural Start webinar, Multiple Language Learning in Nature-Based Education. Today, you're going to hear from 3 speakers, Anna Jennerjohn, who will share an overview of the current research on this topic, followed by Felisa Gorstas of Sol y Luna Nature School in California, and Ana Marise of Amigos del Bosque Nature Preschool in Minnesota. They will both be sharing what dual language learning looks like in a nature-based setting in their respective programs. So before we jump in, I'd like to share just a couple of housekeeping notes. I know everyone is always excited to know whether or not the webinar is being recorded. Maybe you're not able to stay the whole time today, and rest assured that yes, it is being recorded, and we will share the recording as well as related resources within the next week. So you can look forward to that. And feel free to use the chat. Everyone's really active in there already, which I love to see. Feel free to use the chat to share resources, your own experiences and observations. As I observed, these speakers here are not the only ones who are here and work in dual language or multiple language or language immersion programs. So I know there are lots of folks that have things to share, so feel free to share your own experiences and observations, resources, and ask questions of our speakers in the chat. We simply ask that you are respectful to your fellow attendees and to our speakers who have given their time to share with you today. Following the presentations, we'll have time for Q&A, and we will wrap up on time. As I mentioned, my wonderful colleague Carrie is here providing tech support, and will be monitoring the chat if you have any technical issues. So if you're having any trouble, feel free to just send a note to us, and Carrie will be keeping an eye out for that. All right, well, let's jump into it. So the reason we're really excited to have this conversation today is because this is such an important issue in early childhood education. There are so many children who are learning more than one language. In the US, nearly a quarter of children speak a language other than English at home. And in some states, that number rises to nearly a third. And in some cities, up to half of children leaving school are leaving school and speaking a language other than English at home. According to our surveys of nature preschools in the US, nature-based programs are increasingly serving children who are multiple language learners, even if this share is below the overall number of children speaking multiple languages. This still represents a large and growing population in the nature preschool world and is likely to continue to grow. Quickly, this represents just a sample of some of the dual language and language immersion programs that are members of the Alliance. I know that there was some interest in connecting with other dual language or language immersion programs, and we're happy to explore how to best support that effort. These are just some of our members who fall into this category, including all the way on the right here, the Yamita School is one of our newest members, and they are located in Texas. And before today's webinar, someone reached out to ask specifically about American Sign Language in nature-based programs. And while this webinar may not address that in any depth, we are aware of at least one nature preschool, which is Secret Forest Play School in Duluth, Minnesota, where the teacher, Megan, teaches in both spoken English and ASL throughout the school day. So we thought we'd start this conversation today by exploring two main questions. First, we really want to understand and highlight how programs are approaching multiple language learning as an asset and not a challenge. There is some history in our education system in the US of thinking of languages other than English as a barrier to overcome when we're focused on teaching children English. The reality is that children can advance in multiple languages at the same time, and there are benefits to children speaking more than one language. And teaching multiple languages also honors the whole child and family when we support them in speaking their native languages. And second, we want to explore and highlight how the nature-based approach in particular can be really helpful in promoting language learning in general and also multiple language learning. We're not going to get all the answers today, so don't worry, speakers, but we thought we should start exploring these questions. So we invited Dr. Anna Jennerjohn, who we connected with through the Natural Start Conference when she presented on this topic, to update us on some of the current research in this area. And we invited directors from two different language immersion programs to give us a little window into their programs and how they blend dual language instruction with the nature-based approach. We'll hear from Felisa from Sol y Luna Nature School and Ana from Amigos del Bosque Nature Preschool. And with that, I will stop sharing and I will hand it over to Anna to begin with giving us an overview of the research. So thank you, Anna.
Hi there, everyone. Great to be here today. Let me pull up my slides. Okay, let me know if that's not showing up. Otherwise, I'm going to assume that we're good. So I'm Anna Jennerjohn. I am a researcher in education. I work at Rockman et al. Cooperative, where we do research and evaluation. And I really focus on children's development in language and literacy, especially in STEM content areas and in nature-based learning. So I will echo what Emily said. There are many children in the United States who speak multiple languages in their homes. So thinking about how we can support children in their schools and or childcare centers as they're developing multilingual language capabilities. So schools and childcare programs can develop a variety of language supports. One option would be to develop a language immersion program or a heritage language program where a language beyond English is intentionally taught and used. Language immersion programs could be one way where all or most children are learning a new language together, or two-way where, for example, half of the children speak Spanish at home and about half of the children speak English at home. And then they not only learn from the teacher, but they really learn from each other in those social interactions as they're building their language capabilities. And in my area, we have nature-based programs that are immersive in Spanish, at least one in French, and there's a Dakota language nest. I'm in the Twin Cities in Minnesota. And in programs where instruction is in English, of course, there are also ways to support children who speak multiple languages. Teachers can incorporate intentional translanguaging supports, encourage children to use all of their language resources, and public schools also have emergent multilingual or ELL classes. So those terms may or may not be new to you, so let's talk about what they mean. So an emergent multilingual is a child or person who is developing language knowledge in more than one language. As Emily mentioned, thinking about people who are learning a new language beyond an English language learner, but more of an asset-based lens of emerging and multilingual capabilities. Language resources is a term I'm going to be using throughout my portion today. And that just means thinking about what children are bringing to their educational or care settings in terms of a wealth of language resources from their lives. And these are also can be called literacy reservoirs. And we also want to encourage translanguaging or using 2 or more languages to communicate in cohesive utterances. This is something that multilingual people do naturally. If you're interested in more information, there are some links at the end of the presentation that I can share. So for example, if a child says, "Mira, teacher," like "look, teacher," that's a quick example of translanguaging as they're drawing upon both their Spanish knowledge and their English knowledge and using those two to communicate. So how or why might emergent multilingual children use all their language resources or translanguaging in the nature-based classroom? Well, imagine you are a child in a nature-based classroom and you just came across this tree and you want to tell someone about it, either a teacher or a friend. Now imagine that you must use a language that you are not very familiar with yet. So imagine what that language could be for you right now personally. So for me, I speak English and I speak conversational Spanish, but very little German. For this exercise, I'm going to imagine that I'm a child who comes across this tree and I need to convey my excitement to a German speaker. So I want you to pause and even speak aloud. Since we can't hear you, everyone's muted. Imagine what you would say in your excitement about the tree trunk in a language you're not very familiar with. I'm going to be quiet for about 10 seconds so you can do that now. So now you can reflect, how did you use your language resources to tell somebody about the tree that you found? Did you find yourself inserting some English words or translanguaging or some words from another home language that you use? Perhaps insect, worm, beetle, path, scribbles, rivers. How would you try and describe that to someone? And this exercise can help us reflect upon our own languaging, and also when we're observing children in nature-based settings, to encourage us to pause and think about what their communication is teaching us about their languaging. And I'll share this quote from Brisk and Harrington, who say, "Bilinguals do not function as 2 monolinguals shutting off one language while using the other, but as an integrated individual with 2 active languages affecting each other and serving as efficient resources for communication." So having set our foundation with language resources or literacy reservoirs and translanguaging, now I'd like to move into a very brief overview of what the research says on why and how the outdoors support language learning. First of all, children are more likely to be in a state of decreased stress and enhanced attention when outdoors as compared to an indoor setting. And what better way to work on language development than when you're feeling unstressed and attentive? Additionally, this works for teachers as well. When teachers are outside, they also feel less stressed and more attentive. And I'll give you a quick anecdote for this one. Many of my anecdotes, I'm a former elementary teacher, mostly in bilingual elementary schools. And the research I've done on nature-based learning is primarily in early elementary grades, kindergarten, first and second. So that's where most of my examples will come from. But I know with Anna and Felisa, they will probably have some earlier childhood examples as well coming up. So I was observing an outdoor science lesson, and the teacher had just given her students a task. And so the class had kind of dispersed in this small nature school forest that they had, and the students were attentive, engaged, and off they went. And she had a newcomer who spoke Korean and was just emerging in his English capabilities. And this teacher did not speak Korean. So he was sitting on a stump and he was just looking up at the canopy. And she went and she sat down next to him. And they had this very slow, unhurried conversation in English about what he was observing. And I think that's just one small example of how the pause that sometimes the outdoor setting can give us can help facilitate this kind of exchange between a teacher and a student who's learning English or another language due to the attentional resources and decreased stress that the outdoor setting provides. Secondly, realia, or in some ways that could be similar to loose parts, are ever present in outdoor settings. Realia are real-life objects that language teachers use to teach their students vocabulary and sentence structure. For example, if a language teacher were teaching about gardens or soil or decomposition, she might bring some of those things into the classroom for the children to touch, explore, speak, and write about as they learned. And this takes a lot of advanced preparation on the part of the teacher. But in the outdoor setting, depending on your goals, the realia are right there. Whatever piques a child's interest is right in front of them. For example, here's a child, we'll call her Evangelina, who spoke Spanish at home and was learning English at school. And she loved finding worms in the outdoor classroom. And this spurred her learning lots of vocabulary about worms, how chickens like to eat worms, how to describe where to find the worms to classmates. The realia for learning a new language are ever present in outdoor settings. The next way that the outdoors supports language learning is that outdoors, children produce longer utterances with more lexical diversity. Perhaps this is because of increased movement, autonomy, and/or social interaction. Children seem to talk more outdoors, and talking is good for language development. Encourage children to talk in any of their languages and to use all of their language resources. There's direct research to support this idea. For example, Richardson and Murray recorded with little recorders around children's necks, their utterances on an indoor classroom, an outdoor classroom, and then in a natural outdoor setting, and found that the children's utterances were longer and more lexically diverse or using richer vocabulary in the natural outdoor setting. And excitingly, Novikova and colleagues found a similar thing just last year, and they had 7 students included in their study of preschoolers. And they found that both monolingual students and multilingual students produced longer utterances in a natural outdoor setting. I'm watching my time. So I'll sort of skim by this one. It was a similar study I did last year, looking if that was also true for students writing. Did students write more in an outdoor setting? And ultimately, in this study, I found that students wrote about the same amount in a quick write after a science lesson, both indoors and outdoors. But for the small number of emergent multilinguals who were included in this study, they seemed to write more in the outdoor setting. So there's definitely an opening here for more research. And finally, the outdoors provides a setting for purposeful speaking, listening, reading, and writing in real life with real life connections. And there's going to be a handout in the chat. Since the research on multiple language learners and the outdoor setting is sort of a newer area, a newer pathway for research, here you can draw upon what we know about outdoor learning in the left-hand column, and then what we can infer for emergent multilingual students based on what we know about really great teaching for emergent multilinguals and setting a great foundation for their success. So this handout will be in the chat, and along with that, There are also some resources. Check out these WIDA briefs if you're interested in supporting translanguaging for students and you don't speak a child's home language. To the translanguaging handout from WIDA is really awesome, as well as how to promote family engagement with multilingual families, or if you're more interested in the science aspect, how to really focus on science in a multilingual way. So thank you so much. And with that, I will hand it over to Felisa.
Hello, everyone. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for sharing. That was so informative. I always love learning new research, especially current research. So thank you. My name is Felisa Silva. I run a home-based family childcare nature preschool with my sister, Natalia, who couldn't be here today. But we are nature-based in that we spend 90% of our days outdoors. We are not a forest school, we are home-based, but our mission is to develop an eco-literate, empowered family and child to address climate change. We also follow an anti-bias curriculum and approach. So we are a 50-50 language model. We speak 50% in English and 50% in Spanish. When we first opened about 8 years ago, we definitely saw the driving force for our families was the nature aspect. But as we've kind of come into the past few years, we've gotten many more families interested in Spanish. And I think it's because of the new research that's coming out of the many cognitive benefits that being bilingual has on the brain. We know that it makes a more complex, healthy brain and improves children's executive functions, both in infancy and throughout the lifespan. So even if you learn a second language as an adult, it will still have benefits for your brain leading into your later years. So the neuroscience is really impressive in terms of being bilingual, learning language, and celebrating that diversity. So for us, we implement supporting our dual language learners by supporting their culture. So we have dived in really deep into the anti-bias approach this year to support some of our immigrant students that we have this year. So we introduce children through Spanish, through play, songs, books, dance. They do recitals, recite poems, and storytelling. We also follow evidence-based practices, which shares the most important thing that we can do to support our dual language or multilingual learners is to see them as knowledgeable resources, like Anna mentioned, as true resources that not only do they need to learn, but that we can learn from them. And that's been a huge shift in how we express ourselves about and to the children. So we say, oh, they don't know how to say this, but we're very conscious of saying, I don't know how to speak Hindu. I'm learning, please teach me, because I want to expand my knowledge of other languages as well. So we really use that asset-oriented approach to our foundation for teaching, which leads us to foster relationships and bring in their home language and their culture into our classroom. And with that, we guide their play, we guide our curriculum, and we do ongoing observational assessments throughout the year. One of the activities that I'm really excited to share with you is something that we implemented this year, which we call our family story binders, which we feel hits all four. It helps build the relationship with the child and the family. It helps their home language and their home culture be represented in the classroom because cultural representation is so important. And it also brings in, which a new term that I just learned, translanguaging, because we ask families 5 questions to share with us. How did their child get their name? So please provide us their name story. Who is in their family? Who is in their extended family? A family recipe that they eat on a daily basis or regularly at home, meaningful holidays for them, and words or phrases that they speak at home, especially if its home language is different than English. We get these binders back and that guides our curriculum. So we've become little anthropologists. We are now studying about the children in our program, their home heritage, their home culture, and we're diving deep into how they celebrate and how they are at home. And it's really brought in such a new passion and such a more meaningful way to connect to the children, and a different us learning so much about their culture. And it's been so great to see this project. And then each child, we call them the Estrellita of the week, they get to share their book with the rest of the class, and we focus on them for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, however long the learning activity extends. And it's really helping us build those meaningful family relationships. So this child was Japanese. And so for us, I think the point that I'd love to make too is that language and culture go hand in hand, and we can't really learn about language without learning about their culture. And so as we dive deep into culture, we're learning new words and new perspectives, and really giving the children such a meaningful and great opportunity to learn about different perspectives around the world. So I'll share one quick example. This family member, mother wanted to come in and did a sushi demonstration for all the children and miso soup. And then she brought us wonderful books about Japanese heritage. And in one of the books, we learned about a term that they have in Japan called wabi-sabi, which is the perspective that, you know, when things are imperfect, you still have grace and humility in accepting it. And that's something that, you know, is so different culturally here, the aspect of humility and accepting things that are imperfect. So now when we go on our nature walks, we look at, you know, flowers that are dying or trees that are dying, and we try and connect it all to the different cultural perspectives that we're learning about, like wabi-sabi. So really involving the families into your program really helps support multilingual learners, because they're proud of their heritage and they get to share and they get to see that they are truly valuable and important to the learning in the program. So this child in particular has a lot of allergies. So we provide meals for our children, but he has a lot of allergies. So he was especially happy because everyone that day got to eat what he eats on a regular basis, which was Japanese food. They had miso soup and sushi. And so we think that the family story binders are a great way to implement into even a forest program, because they're portable, they can go back and forth, and the children have access to them on a daily basis. So you can daily read with them about their name, about their family, about what they celebrate at home, and you can bring that information into your classroom to guide the curriculum a little bit and still connecting it to nature. So in this photo, this child, her mom came in, they're from India, and they brought us dandaya sticks to learn how to do a traditional dandaya dance. And the next day when we went on our nature walk, she went and picked up sticks and started doing the dance and started connecting to her peers and was teaching them the dance. So I think having the loose parts connected with the culture and the knowledge of each child's home culture is just so amazing to see. And I think it's really taken our nature-based approach and made it so much more holistic to learn about the identities of each of the children, because their self-identity is so important to cultivate and support. So I have a list here of books, a website that has wonderful, beautiful books that support multilingual learners, as well as, you know, multicultural books. We also ask families to donate culturally relevant items. So for example, that family donated, who's from Japan, they donated chopsticks that the children, you know, use outside in our outdoor classroom to pick up leaves, or we might take the dandaya sticks with us on the nature walk, or they have different opportunities to incorporate things from home. One family bought us rickshaws, so we incorporated that into our sort of transportation area. So we've really seen this deep dive into each child's cultural heritage, really expanding our own knowledge in terms of the different areas of interest in our school. We have an outdoor classroom, so we have traditional sort of like building area, art area, sensory area, before we go out into the beyond on our daily nature walks. So we've incorporated this too with our building. We're now building underground subways because in Japan, a lot of their trains are underground. And so we're really trying to incorporate all of this support into different aspects of our learning. I'm trying to watch my time too. And then I know Anna mentioned total physical response. So this is another great strategy which works both ways. If you're trying to teach a second language or you're trying to help a student learn English, it really is such an effective tool. So there's a link there so you can learn more about total physical response, which is, putting movements to vocabulary. So in this example, we're practicing trading toys back and forth to help our friend integrate easily and play more with her peers. So thank you so much. I've been happy to share, the work that we're doing. And I hope that this has been informative and helpful. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Felisa. And Anna, if you would like to share your screen.
Well, my name is Ana Moriz, and I'm the teacher and director at Amigo del Bosque Spanish Nature Preschool. Felisa, thank you for those ideas. That presentation was amazing. Thinking about right now so many ideas for those families' story binders. So interesting. Where we are, you can go to the next one. So we are located in Eden Prairie, in the ancestral lands of the Dakota people. And well, my hope when I open this nature preschool is to offer a safe space for families to access high quality programs while embracing a strong relationship. We can go to the next one. Well, I think this is important. Yeah. So how this preschool started was in my house basement one day a week, inviting families to practice, learn Spanish through play and sensory experiences. I was with my 2 kids at home right before COVID, and we needed a connection with other families that speak Spanish. Our native language is Spanish, so there was a huge need of getting connected with other families, and this is how it started, and then evolved into Amigo del Bosque Spanish Nature Preschool. So we are a Spanish nature preschool working from my home, and 2 days a week we meet in the woods. So we also have a little group for caregiver and baby, and we do camps during the summer. We can go to the next one. For people that want to start, I always say, don't attempt this by yourself. Surround yourself by amazing, passionate people, and soon enough, you will build a community. And go step by step. I'm usually some people reach out to me to ask about it, like, how do I start? Where do I start? It seems so hard, especially with licensing, if you want to be licensed. So I always say, like, go step by step, go slow, surround yourself by people. We're going into our 3rd year, and it hasn't been easy at all, but it will be even harder without people. So I have a great, amazing group of teachers and people that is always helping. Families are amazing as well. You can go to the next one. You can keep going. I'm going to skip that one. So how do we invite the Spanish language into our preschool? So I'm saying we invite the Spanish language because it's never something that we want to push into the children, or that we're trying to make the children do it in a certain way, but it's a gentle invitation to the kids to learn the Spanish language. We try to do this by speaking to them in Spanish, hopefully 90% of the time. In September, when we start the school year, it's usually all the instructions will be in English, and then we, little by little, we start transitioning to the Spanish language. So we use an inquiry-based child-led emergent curriculum. And with this kind of curriculum, we make sure that children are linking their learning of a new language with something enjoyable and pleasurable. So so if we are following their interests and speaking to them in Spanish while this is happening, while they are in their own interests and following their passions, the connection between that activity that they're doing and the Spanish language will be stronger. We use multisensory experiences, invitations. Nature has a lot of that for us. When it's snowy, we play with the snow. When it's not snowy, like right now in Minnesota, we don't have any snow. We're doing a lot of things around in the woods and going into the lake and playing with the sand and seeing how that water is freezing and thawing and freezing and thawing. So nature gives us a lot of I think it's the biggest resource for multisensory experiences. Also through songs and movement rhymes, I can give you some resources about some amazing lady that we follow with her movement rhymes. She's amazing, and kids love those movement rhymes. They keep doing it, and so it's very, very effective. Also speaking Spanish most of the time, especially replying in Spanish to English questions. So even when the kids are still speaking to us in English, we keep replying in Spanish, and eventually they just get it. And we use a lot of a lot of facial expression with our hands, with our body, that they will understand and get what we are saying. You can go to the next one, Carrie. Thank you. Also literature, all in Spanish. So we have, we read the kids the book in Spanish, and we are, we will say some keywords that will make the kids understand. Some of the kids said, "Oh, teacher, I read that book already in English." And I'm like, "Great, so today we're going to read it in Spanish." And they start making those connections. We were just reading Iggy Peck, Architect, which the translation is in Spanish is pretty funny, the name. And they loved it. And this was a book that we read just in Spanish, and they enjoy it so much. And little by little, they just understood what was going on in that classroom and what was going on. It's an amazing book with amazing pictures. So it was really, really good for them to understand, and making those connections was amazing. And also I feel for literature is very important that there's always representation. And if you are a director, also with your hires, who are you hiring? For the kids to have some representation there is also very important. We do a lot of family involvement, bringing the family cultures and traditions to the preschool. It's also very important to share resources with parents. So I try to do, we do a weekly update with the parents, and that's when we share either books or songs or also those rhymes that we are sharing with parents for them to extend at home the learning. This picture is from our traditional garbage pickup. Every year we do a garbage pickup in the fall. So this is one of those activities when we bring the families together. We also do a solstice celebration, a backyard bird count that is usually in February, a spring family hike. So families come together and they share their cultures, they just build community. I think building community is big and very, very important for us. This year, parents asked to share a parent directory, so we just did it. Okay, let's do a parent directory, and they get, I'm guessing they're using it to get together when they don't come to the preschool. So that community building is, it keeps going after they are done with the school. We can go to the next one, Carrie. I took some of the questions that they were shared with us about some of the questions that you had, and I'm gonna try to respond some of them from my perspective, from my personal perspective, and also my my personal background. So I think you have to click again, Carrie. So this question is, how can we best support children in our outdoor programs who are new to the region and don't speak the language? So this made me think a lot because I'm an immigrant, and how you feel when you are new to the region and you don't speak the language. So I thought about the connections that I have made throughout the years. And the first thing that I could just think is speak the universal language for children. You can click again, Carrie. And it's play. We are big on play in our preschool, and I think this is a big when it's when we are working with small children, and all the connections that we can make with the kids instead of repeat after me, árbol, casa. We should be letting them lead us in their own interests and following their play. And through that is that we're gonna introduce the language. Let's go to the, you can click again, Carrie. And also the universal language for humanity. You can click again. That is connection. So I think if we want to teach anything, not just a language, we need to start with those two. We need to have a connection with these children, and then we need to follow their own interests. So these two things for me were key. Even as an adult coming in a foreign region, making those connections was very important for me to feel part of the culture and feeling part, developing a sense of belonging. We can go to the next one. You can click again. This is something that I took from Teacher Tom. I was reading one of these days and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is gonna be so perfect for that presentation. And it talks about this, about connection and following kids' interests. The work of relationship and community is the real work of a play-based educator. We live our days in the flow of life, connecting, listening, and striving with all our being to understand these fully formed humans with who we find ourselves. And that's what the children are doing as well, connecting, listening, and striving to understand. When we turn everything into work and preparation, we are paddling against the flow of life. And yes, it becomes toil and drudgery for everyone. I just wanted to share this because sometimes we're really worried about how we support, how can we support, how can we teach, how can we meet the standards, how can we get these children ready for kindergarten. But if we think first about the connection that we need to make with these children, that's the most important thing. We can click again, Carrie. How am I doing with time?
Anna, if you could just wrap up in a couple minutes, then we can do a Q&A with all the speakers. But thank you for everything you're sharing. Just maybe another minute or two.
Okay, perfect. I'm just gonna put my timer. You can go ahead, Carrie. I just want to show something. I wanted to share a video, but I don't think. Well, this is one of the beautiful spaces that we share in the woods. Kids are climbing. You can go ahead, Carrie. Keep going, Carrie. Keep going. Okay, sorry. Let's go to the let's back up a little bit. I found this question very, very interesting, and nature-based learning programs tend to pair with inquiry-based learning, but does inquiry-based learning work as well for multilingual students? And I just want to show you, well, this was a video. You can watch it because this is going to be shared, but I just want to show you some pictures and see how we pair inquiry-based learning for multilingual students. The video was really nice. You can go ahead, Carrie, with the next one. So here we're building snow structures and journaling about it. And even when the kids are still speaking in English, we are always speaking in Spanish. So they spend quite a bit of time like discussing and building these snow structures. And the communication that you can see through it, it's amazing. And the work on social skills and on negotiation, it's amazing. And even though they're speaking in English, all those abilities are going to translate at some point into the Spanish. You can keep going. Go to the next one. Here they are mixing colors and building a spaceship in the right, and then they wanted to launch the spaceship. I don't think that happened. This group, thank you for the question. This group is 3 to 5. You can go to the next one, Carrie. Here we are mapping and checking for the SAP. You can keep going to the next one. We're still mapping there and more journaling. You can go to the next one. Growing some yummy veggies, and then these children, she's letting us know what she knows about semillas. ¿Cómo se dice semillas en español? Seeds. Thank you. My son is here helping me. Yes, seeds. Let's go to the next one. So just for key concepts is making connection, nurture play, link the new language to children's interests and passions, family involvement, always ask family about cultures and values, volunteer events, and bring these to the classroom. One more. Always share resources for families to enlarge these, to keep going with these in the class, in the house, like to bring all these literature and songs into the house. I think there's one more and we are done. And the learning of a new language is a long-term process and should be enjoyable, especially for young children. Thank you very much.
Anna. Oh,
absolutely.
Cut you off. Thank you. And we have a couple of minutes, not very much time, to just address any questions. So Carrie has been grabbing some questions from the chat, and we also had some questions submitted in advance. And I wonder, Anna, you began to address this in the context of your program and from your perspective, but I wonder, Felisa, if you have any insights, and feel free to turn your videos on. I should as well. If you have any insights, you mentioned that you follow like an emerging curriculum, which is very common in nature-based settings. And I wondered if you had any insights into how an emergent curriculum aligns with when you aren't necessarily, which is a type of curriculum where you're not necessarily able to prepare as much because you're really following the children's interests, how that aligns with language learning. I don't know if you have any insights into that.
Well, I think what's so important is I think multi-language learners, young children learn like all children, right? So they want to learn about things that they're interested in. They want to play with their peers. I think they want to interact with the world around them, just like a monolingual child would. So I think the nature and emergent curriculum provides the perfect environment for that because they're experiencing with all of their sensations, which is how we know children learn best, through touch and seeing and hearing and feeling and being exposed to their interests. And we have found that children, the most thing that they're interested is always themselves, right? And their families. That's the most important thing to them, usually always, is them, their family, their moms and dads. And so we've kind of dove into just learning about them. And they all seem very interested to be learning about their peers as well.
Awesome, thank you.
Mhm.
And to either you or Anna or both of you, are there any resources that help you with curriculum as you're developing activities or thinking about the curriculum? And specifically, someone actually asked if you have a specific anti-bias curriculum that you follow.
We don't have an actual anti-bias sort of curriculum. We look at their 4 main goals and we sort of try and stay within those frameworks of the goals of the anti-bias curriculum. And we try and marry that with our nature-based learning, which isn't always perfect. Some activities, I'm sure you could do it outside. I'm sure you can make sushi out in the forest. It was actually a lot simpler than I thought it would be. But I think what's important is we have the time with my co-teacher, Natalia, to really just plan and spend ideas kind of reflecting on what they're learning. And so in the family story binders, we've actually incorporated learning stories, which I know is a new sort of observation tool that teachers are kind of transitioning to. So we are also transitioning to learning stories. So every month, every child gets a learning story, and that helps guide our curriculum and sort of our planning and assessment moving forward. And then those learning stories go in the family binders as well. So it's really nice because at the end of the year, they have their family binder, all their learning stories, and their artwork, sort of a portfolio all in one.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah.
And Anna, this
For us, the curriculum. Oops, go ahead.
No, you go ahead, Anna.
No, yeah, of course. We don't have a specific curriculum that we follow, but the ECs are really good, a guide for us to know that we are covering all that we cover for the children. But usually in the nature-based program you can cover everything, all the ECs, all the ECs with the nature, with all the activities that nature provides for us.
Yeah, really what Felisa was saying as well. It's such a sensory rich environment that there's just so many opportunities. Okay, I have a question, Anna, for you. Pilar asked about, or just commented that she would love to see more research in this field. And I wondered if you could just comment on kind of where the research is at or what opportunities there are, just to give us a sense of how this is developing.
Yeah, I think there are so many inferences we can make right now, which are on the handout that was in the chat a little bit earlier. But I'm really excited for where it can go next, like really focusing on emergent multilingual children instead of making these inferences from research. So I think like looking specifically at language development outside, and especially comparing not just children day to day to themselves who are maybe learning language in an indoor and outdoor setting, but across different schools. Like, so a child who is having these really rich outdoor experiences, perhaps at childcare or at school or at home, compared to maybe children who are not, and to really show what I feel is probably likely there, but could use more research to really show that connection of how this sensory rich environment does really facilitate language learning, and how we can harness that and then give more children more access.
Awesome. Well, we'll be keeping our eye out for more research in this area and staying connected with you to hopefully learn where it all stands. So thank you. I just want to take another moment as we're coming to the end here to really thank Anna and Felisa and Anna for sharing and for answering questions. I know there are so many more questions out there that we could have gotten to, but this just is, we're happy to have started this conversation within our network. And it was really wonderful also to see all the comments in the chat, as we know that there are lots of other folks who are doing this work as well, who have wonderful resources to share. So thank you all for attending and for sharing. And I hope that you as our speakers here got to see some of the really positive comments in the chat. A lot of comments just saying like, I love this and I want to do this. So really inspiring. Thank you. And as we close, I just would like to give our speakers the final word here. So Anna, hopefully your connection is strong there, but do you have any sort of final thought to share?
I think I will emphasize about making connection through play.
Yeah, and play is the universal language. I really, appreciated that. And Felisa, how about you?
I would say thank you for having me. It's been a great experience. And I think as I was doing research for the presentation, one of the articles that I read really kind of was like, oh, this aha moment where it's, the rest of the world is multilingual. I think it's just in America where we have this idea that you can only have one language and it's monolingual. And it kind of was like, oh, wow, my being monolingual really is a minority. And I think to help prepare our children for the diverse global world, I would love to see all programs incorporate some type of bilingual or multilingual learning, not only to support multilingual learners, but to support our monolingual learners, because knowing multiple languages is such a personal asset, but also an economic benefit. And I was seeing that the need for multilingual workers has doubled in the past 10 years alone. So really setting them up to succeed in such a diverse world. I think bilingual programs are an amazing way, especially marrying that with nature-based learning. I mean, you have all the evidence-based learning you need right there. So I think it's just such a great partnership. So thank you for having me and starting this conversation.
Well, thank you. Yeah, that's thank you for that contribution. That was wonderful. And Anna, lastly.
Well, it was really great to hear more about Felisa's and Anna's work. It's really inspirational to hear about the ways that all kinds of language learning are being incorporated into childcare and school settings. So thank you.
Well, thank you all again, and thank you everyone who was able to join us here today. Just really quickly, we hope that you stay connected with Natural Start, stay in touch. You can find us at all of these places, and also becoming a member of Natural Start is free to do, and it's pretty easy. So we'll send that link out along with the recording and resources. And we hope you continue to come to our webinars. We have some cool webinars lined up for the next couple of months. And also, lastly, we hope that we'll see you in Portland this summer. We'll have our conference, our 10th anniversary of the Nature-Based Early Learning Conference will be in Portland, Oregon this summer, and we'll have opportunities to join online as well. So with that, just one last big thank you, and thank you to Carrie for your support today. And I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of your day, and we'll see you at the next one. Thank you.